lately I've been giving my art making process a lot of thoughts. And I've decided that I want to be an eco artist. I want my art making process to be economical and ecological. And the one supply that I need to purchase on the regular to make my artwork is yarn. So I'm on the mission to create my own yarn. So how this came about was I was looking at my art making process, and, in my personal life, I'm, really into shopping secondhand. I like to buy things used. It just has more character and personality, and it makes me happy. And it's, I think, important to stay on a budget. I get concerned about the financials, and I like to make sure that, the income and the expenses all balance out. So as far as drawing goes, because that's half of what I do is I draw. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of charcoal drawing and oil painting and loved it. It was wonderful, and I did that for decades. But since I discovered Procreate, I've been so in love with Procreate that I really haven't gone back to my oils. And so I did some research just to see, okay, is this really the most ecological method for drawing, just to make sure. And it is, because there isn't the processing of the paper, the spending of the money on the paper, the shipping of it, so there's a lot of things that go into it. Whereas when I use Procreate, I'm using it on an iPad that I purchased many, many years ago. And I purchased Procreate once and I have it forever. And then and I actually use my iPad for all of my regular work that I do. I do social media management for artists and nonprofits, and I do all of that on the iPad as well. So I use it for everything. And so I have the drawing covered. That is definitely a good ecological and economical choice for my drawings. Then the other option was thinking about, okay, well, the yarn and the knitting component of the artwork that I make. And I do have a lot of equipment that I use. I have, old knitting machines, but they're all secondhand, and, you buy them once and you use them over and over and over again. So I'm not constantly purchasing items. And so I also have spinning wheels, and I've always been curious about them and wanting to get better with them. But what's held me back is I just didn't know if I could get yarn thin enough and strong enough to make its way through the knitting machines, because the knitting machines require the yarn to be a certain gauge. And because I do really complex projects in the knitting machines, they weren't really built to do the kinds of things I asked them to do. I need the yarn to be very strong. There's a lot of pulling and tugging that happens when I work with the knitting machines because it is so different. And so that's been the mission I've been on, is how can I take... Oh, and then I'm always seeing yarn secondhand at the thrift store or at estate sales or at garage sales, and they're all being sold for next to nothing. And I always pass them by because I'm like, well, I don't, it's the wrong color, or it's too thick. Usually it's too thick and I can't use it in my knitting machine. And so I usually pass up all this secondhand yarn. And I don't want to use it for a wearable item because, if you're going to make a sweater, you need X number of skeins of the right color and all this jazz. So I usually pass up all the secondhand yarn. And I was thinking, well, how can I put all that yarn to good use? And so I bought a secondhand drum carder, and I learned how to cut up scraps of yarn that I already have and turn it into fluff and then spin it on the spinning wheel. And so then the goal is to spin it thin enough and strong enough that I can use it in the knitting machine. So that's what I've been working on, and I've had a lot of success. I'm really happy to say I did my first real test run with the knitting machine using just my hand spun yarn. And it worked, and the yarn was strong enough. It held up to the machine. I was really worried that I had overspun the yarn, but it actually turned out okay. Because I was worried that it'd be overspun, and then it would make the piece lie funny. But that didn't happen, so that was a huge success. And the drum carder is a huge help. So what I do is I take the secondhand yarn that I've gotten, and I've gotten tons from like friends and stuff. So as they finish their fiber art projects, they collect all their scraps and they've given them to me. And I have another friend who like had just tons of skeins of yarn that they didn't need. And some was just, acrylic, some was like wool. There was all sorts of different fibers and in tons of different colors and tons of different weights and tons of different quantities. And none of that matters for what I'm doing. So it was perfect. So I've been able to take all those colors and I mix them together on the drum carder. So what I do is I will cut up the yarn into about 4 or 5 inch strings. And what I've been doing is I just plop it onto the drum carder and start spinning it. And sometimes I'll use a hand carder to sort of brush through it while it's spinning. And it's been working. And I do have to send it through several times. It's actually a really relaxing process. I usually just watch YouTube or listen to something and, spend a couple hours just like spinning up all this yarn and making it into fluff. And then after it's all fluff and it's all a bunch of fiber that's all mixed together. And what's fun is I can also play with the color because these yarns are coming to me in all these different colors. So I can say, I'm going to do a green, and I can mix up all these different greens to get this really cool green color and all these different fibers. And some are like more stringy and some have like stellina in them, so they're sparkly. And so I'll take that fiber then after I mix it all up and then I mix up the batches so it's all consistent. I'll go ahead and spin it up on the spinning wheels. And so, and spinning on the spinning wheel is so much fun too, and it moves pretty fast. And I've been, making all this yarn for myself, which has been awesome. So my goal for the rest of 2024 is, of course, I'm always going to be drawing. I've been doing a lot of that, and I'm also facilitating figure drawing, too, on Thursday mornings at the Oak Park Art League, which is my local art center in Illinois. And then my goal is to spin on the spinning wheels every day for the rest of the year and for the rest of 2024 until I get really good and consistent at it. Like I said, I'm really excited because it doesn't seem like I'm overspinning the yarn. It did go through the knitting machine really smooth. I was worried it was going to be overspun, but it actually worked out. And it was strong enough. So a huge success. I'm really, really excited. I might ask viewers for any scrap yarn that you guys have in the future. So actually, if you have any scrap yarn you want to send my way or skeins that you're not using, I will take it. Just leave a comment below and I will let you know where to send that so that, I can build up my stash and collection and I can create more yarn so I can make more art. So that's some of the stuff that I've been up to in this studio lately. I hope you all are doing well and happy creating.